Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Song Kim from Singapore Management University, and thanks very much for the invitation. I'm very delighted to be here at the Singapore Economic Policy Forum. Today, I want to explore something unique or developing in our field, which is a rise of tech economists. So, having worked as a senior economist at Amazon myself while I was on leave from SMU, I had the opportunity to see how tech giants utilize economics expertise into solving their business problem. So I want to share insight from that experience a little bit. Also want to share we as educators can adapt our economics curriculum to align with the rapid shift in the tech industry. So, so over the last few years, there has been a buzz going on about why tech giants like Google, Amazon, Meta, Uber, and so on hire economists, mainly PhD economists in large numbers. I think this reflects the increasing relevance of economics or economic analysis in tech-driven business problems. So when Amazon officially created a job family called economists within the company, it was around 2013 when I was graduating, and only very few people joined the tech sector, like less than a couple of percent. But fast forward 10 years, if you look at 2022, which was the peak year of the tech job market, about 13% of the PhD graduate from US top 20 program went to the tech sector. Back then in 2020, I think that the starting salary at Uber was over, those who get lucky were making over 300 US thousand dollars as a fresh PhD. Now at OpenAI, it's like 700K. So it's a completely going crazy. And so Amazon is now, another way to showcase is that Amazon is now the largest private employer of PhD economists. Previously, it was the FAST system. Currently at Amazon, I think it's about 900 PhD economists within the company solving various business problems from ad revenue, logistics, marketing, and so on. And Uber alone hired 20% of Harvard's graduate PhD class in 2022. 20% of Harvard graduates all went to Uber. And it's not just about Amazon and Uber. Tech giants like eBay, Grab in Singapore, Lyft, Meta, LinkedIn, Spotify, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple, Airbnb, you name it. Everyone is hiring economists. Why is that? Who are they? So who are tech economists? So tech economists are already different from kind of conventional, traditional economists hired by the government or in the finance industry. They are like mainly, I would say 80% of them are so-called applied microeconomists with diverse backgrounds such as IO, applied micro, econometrics, and theory, solving practical business problems such as demand estimation or measuring ROI of investments or comparative policy against FTC, because FTC is bullying tech giants all the time, and not bullying, just investigating. Causal inference question, like I'm spending like for example, let me take an example. Google was making $240 billion last year from ad revenue, and how they structure design ad auction policy will make a huge impact on their ad revenue. So kind of anecdotal evidence. Before Google, if you remember, you remember that Yahoo was the king back then in this search area. And Yahoo was the first company that ever hired economists in the tech sector. And when the guy from Harvard Business School, economist, joined Yahoo as a chief economist, he single-handedly, he alone, changed the auction design of Yahoo, and raised their ad revenue by 30%. It's crazy, right? If you think about 30% of Google's ad revenue now, it's like $60 billion. When many of them, you might have purchased things from Amazon. Amazon has a very successful subscription program called Prime. If you go to the US, the share of a household with internet is equivalent to share of a household with Prime services. And Amazon raised the Prime subscription fee of about every 2 or 3 years. Whenever they raise the price by 10% or 20%, we are talking about revenue of $3 to $6 billion. And stake is so high, and they want to precisely measure each impact. they assign it to PhD economists, tech economists. So that's what we do. And and to give you a more concrete idea, I just copied and paste a job description of Uber economist from LinkedIn. So Uber has a large economics team called Ubernomics. Uh, John Lees from U of Chicago Department Chair was the chief economist of Uber back then. And he named it Ubernomics. And by the way, he's now the chief economist of Walmart. Uh, and if you look at the job description of the Uber economists, you can see that they are working on a lot of things from, say, designing pricing incentives, modeling consumer behavior, conducting marketplace experimentation and optimization using ML as well. So they see, so this kind of job requires a very solid foundation, not only in economic theory, but a very solid foundation in data science work. And we can do both. So that's why I think tech firms like are keen on hiring economics. So just to summarize again, I think tech companies like hiring economics because we are good at understanding economic incentives. Economic incentives, trade-offs are kind of native language to us. So compared to machine learning scientists who are good at predicting things, we are the one who tell them what to predict. So in that sense, we are more like a designer of a business problem, and we are good at that. And we are also, I think, a lot better at causal inference. Again, machine learning is a mainly prediction problem, but prediction could be long, very much old when it comes to future prediction. And even that making that future prediction, it should be based on the solely causal inference. And this is what we do. So my primary job when I was at Amazon was measuring the causal effects of investment decision that was made at Amazon globally in terms of building fulfillment center. For example, when it comes to where to build a fulfillment center, each costs like $50 million. Should we build it in, say, city A versus city B or versus city C? So they are spending billions of dollars to build fulfillment center and delivery station everywhere. And what should be the priority of that is a very difficult causal inference question. And it was an economist's job to tell them what is the ROI of this building fulfillment center in this city versus that city, and so on. So that's what we were doing. And we are good at both 1 and 2, making firms help drive strategic business decisions. So compared to, let me say, machine learning scientists, again, economists are better at directly communicating with business leadership because we always have kind of objective function in our mind. So if you look at tech firms, typically heads of in-house research institutes that manage both economics and machine learning science, heads are typically economists. And this is a kind of, the first one is an official explanation, but my own explanation of why tech firms like hiring economists is that we are basically just arrogant bunch of people who dare to say anything about any issues. So if you think about big techs, they are very young firms. They didn't exist like 10 years ago. So many of business problems they are facing are very new. They don't know. So when all companies have industries have business problem, what do? They hire McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group and so on to seek solution from them, right? But the problem with that, the tech sector is that those firms, they don't have any idea because it's so new, they don't have expertise. When it happened, what Jeff Bezos did, who was Amazon was the first company who hired economists, MS, is that they turned to economists. They went to John List, they went to Pep Bajari, they went to Susan Etty and so on to seek their expertise to solve their business problems. So for example, one example is that maybe I'm going to give you a specific example. So let's look at the Uber surge pricing. I think that you all know what it is. When demand exceeds supply, when there are too many people who want to ride, price automatically surges. It happens in Grab, it happens in Gojek and everywhere, right? But Uber started this, and economists, so Uber adjusts this X multiplier to balance demand and supply. And economists at Uber developed this scalable solution that determine the right price multiplier. And how do they do it? Basically, estimating the price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply. When there are too much demand as opposed to supply, how do you solve the problem? You want to reduce the demand, you want to increase the supply. And by increasing the price of a Uber ride. But how can you do it optimally? You can do it optimally by learning about the price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply. These are very classical and old concepts to economists, but maybe tech business leadership or scientists, their engineers, don't know much about it. And I think this is the reason why economists have excelled in the tech sector in general. And with this backdrop, let me talk a little bit about how universities can better our students for this tech job market. I think, the first thing is, first of all, I think we need to think of economic science as a business lever, not just, kind of a worldview or kind of framework to interpret the world. We should think of it as a very practical business lever to solve business problem. How do we do that? I think, we should equip our students with the very practical data science skills. John Rist, who won the Nobel Prize a couple of years ago, once said that data science is original econometrics. It is. I think it's very true, but what we were not so good at was that we remain a little bit too academic. I think every economics undergraduate student, when they graduate, they should be familiar with the database management skill like SQL, R or Python, and big data language like Spark. Spark is increasingly getting common to handle big data, and knowing it is really useful especially in the tech sector. And Susan Etty, who is currently at Stanford Business School and the former chief economist at Microsoft, she's a pioneer of machine learning. She is the developer of a random causal forest model, and her methodology are using as a kind of industry standard in the tech industry. But she herself, who is a kind of frontier expert in machine learning, said that experimentation or online A/B testing is a lot more important than machine learning. And I kind of feel that we are not really teaching much about online A/B testing or experimentation and so on. So I think we should emphasize more on that. And more practically, as a university, I think we should offer more specialized program with hands-on tech industry projects, such as the one emphasizing experiential learning. So for example, at SMU, we run something called SMU-X course, X representing experience. So every SMU-X course, I teach one myself. Every SMU-X course is paired with the industry partner. So they come into the classroom, they present their business problem, and our students during the semester work on that business solution and present back to our industry partner. That kind of experiential learning is really helpful for our students to get their job. Also, we provide kind of fresh, maybe inexperienced, but fresh insights to business leaders as well. If you are from the industry, interested in, just let us know. We are happy to collaborate together with you. And we are doing, all universities in Singapore are doing kind of work study program. You work in the industry 4 days a week, come back 1 day a week and take courses, and it doesn't delay graduation. We do it, but I think that we need to scale it up very much. I think the take-up rate can be a lot higher. And lastly, it's not part of official curriculum, I think, as far as I know, in Singapore, most economic departments. But we really should launch a new course on tech economics. At SMU, we are trying to launch this one next year, and we are trying to offer more like tech econ or data science focused master program. For example, another example is that UC San Francisco has a very successful applied professional master program focused on tech econ. So I think we should consider that. And I also want to say that we should raise awareness. My impression after coming back from Amazon is that most students or faculty members don't know much about technical economics or what's going on. There are about 2,000 PhD economists working in the Silicon Valley as we speak. But people who don't know have no idea. So I think we should definitely raise awareness about this evolving job prospect to our students. But I acknowledge that most positions are not for our undergraduate students because it requires advanced degrees like PhD degree. So many of our undergraduate students are going to graduate with a bachelor's degree and will become, if they join tech industry, will become product manager, marketing manager, finance manager, and so on. But what I want to say is that deep understanding of tech economics will help them become more like super soldier, like Steve Rogers in Avengers becoming, Captain America. Because a product manager who knows tech economics or online A/B testing or these concepts will be a lot more productive than those who don't. And another thing that I want to mention about awareness is that there is a rapid rise of deep tech firms like OpenAI and so on. If you look at number of employees in those AI firms, fewer than 100, driving crazy amount of sales or firm value. And one common theme of those firms is that majority of their employees are PhD scientists. So that's the defining feature of deep tech firms. And as I told you, if you graduate from top US program in machine learning or AI and get a job at OpenAI, your starting salary is just US dollar 700K. Again, crazy. And our students, smart Singaporean students, we have a perception that they don't want to study for a doctoral degree because, they want to go somewhere else. So we always had this trouble and they don't, pursue doctoral degree as much as they want them to. But knowing this kind of change in the job market might change their perception about pursuing a doctoral degree. So we should definitely aware raising about how things are changing in the world. And also from a university side, we should also consider implement more active industry engagement and exchanges. For example, we can consider directly recruiting from the industry. So economics department have not done so much actually. Mostly it was a one-way traffic from academia to the industry, not the other way around. But if you look at like top school in the US, like U of Chicago, Northwestern, they have been recently hiring tech economists back to the academia so that they can teach about this to their students. And if you look at, so Amazon is based in Seattle, and they work closely with the University of Washington. No wonder, right? Because it's also based in Seattle. And if you look at their job posting of an assistant professor, they specifically require industry experience as a preferred specification. So it's happening. So it's increasingly increasingly becoming two-way traffic instead of one-way traffic. And lastly, I want to also say that we should do, like as a university office should do more outreach activities, like Office of Industry Engagement can do a lot more, because what I also understand is that many firms don't know what economics can do to them. We can deliver a lot of impact, and our service, the service economics can offer is a kind of experience good. If you haven't used us before, you have no idea how to use it. So we need to create a demand. So, but economists, again, we are not really well trained on that aspect. We're just again, maybe a little smart, but not so good at communication. So university office can help us on this dimension so that we can preach the value proposition of tech economics or economics in general. And I want to conclude my talk with the future outlook. So I don't know what's going to happen. As I told you, about 2,000 economists are there in Silicon Valley. 900 of them are working for Amazon. And many of them, or most of them, were hired over the last few years. So if you ask me to predict the next 10 years, I don't know. It's just still Wild Wild West. But I know that there has been a lot of discussion about AI, ML replacing, some jobs, office jobs, and so on. I want to say this, if you are concerned about that. So there is a natural concern that economics would not be as popular as before, and so on. But at Amazon, we used to say that if ML is a data science, economics is a decision science. If you look at the names of, data science and decision science, which one looks more important? Econ, right? Maybe I am biased. But my rationale behind this is this. I think the relation between ML and econ is more like relationship between computer and skilled labor force. Over the last 50 years, the cost of computing has gone down very much. As a result, the value of a skilled labor force, like college-educated worker, went up very much. So if you look at the machine learning landscape, the marginal cost of ML is going down really fast. Like 5 years ago, if you want to write some machine learning code, it took 100 lines of Python. Now, because of the development of AutoML, it's really easy. You just need a couple of lines, Python, or 5 lines of Python, or 2 lines maybe. So when it happens, I think that tech economy who define an objective function, who define a measurement, who try to answer that question, will be a lot more important. So I think that we will only become more significant. And there is still much room to expand. Tech sector, despite the mass layoffs last year, they are still hiring again. They are still growing fast. And another good news is that it's just not about tech economy, but also about traditional companies like Walmart, Intel, Ford, JP Morgan Chase. They started to hire tech economists, like applied microeconomists. Again, as I told you, Walmart created the chief economist office by hiring journalists and so on. So I think there is a bright and expanding future for our students who are interested in tech economics. This is really the last slide. So John Maynard Keynes once said, if economists could manage to get themselves thought of as a humble, competent people on a level with dentists, they'll be splendid. Well, Keynes, we are trying hard. I don't know, but I think we are trying hard to fulfill this vision. I think tech economy is helping us fulfill this vision faster. All right, so that's it for my today. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kim. Please remain on stage.